Bitcoin definitively breaking all-time highs and sending the little boneless bears into a deep depression. The double top crowd is awfully quiet today as inflows explode, price rises, and the true bust begins. But what if I told you that the little itsy bitsy bears haven't even begun to get gigabanged yet? Over the weekend, Bitcoin traded sideways, and just hours before the market opened today, as we've been actually witnessing for the past few weeks, Bitcoin began erupting. And definitively, Bitcoin has now broken above previous all-time highs, gotten a couple $1,000s higher than the last all-time high, which was set literally the last trading day on Friday. And the bears are quite honestly devastated, squealing, crying, and begging their mommies for a couple extra dollars to short this market. But what if I told you that now as Bitcoin has entered price discovery, something much, much bigger is about to happen? So if you love pumping big time and you understand the bears weren't wrong, they were quite literally insanely wrong, hit that like, hit that subscribe, get signed up to FEMEX below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins. Without any further ado, let's absolutely jump into truly life-changing data. If we take a look on Bitcoin's chart today, I mean, you can see this very clear, loud and clear. If we kind of just, look at any chart you want, take a look at Bitcoin. Clearly right now, Bitcoin has done something that the bears have been telling you for months, years even, that this wouldn't happen. And it all started to go wrong for the baby bears. Let's just have a trip down memory lane when they started drawing these squigglies right here, right at the bottom. They were drawing the doom squigglies. And, let's give them some credit. Some of the bears, they hung on to their doom hypothesis even when we were up here. And even still, the dumbest of the bears were holding on to this doom squiggle even here. And they were wrong. And they've paid the price. And what a bunch of ding-dong. So enough of that. Let's actually take a look at some very big, interesting things going on today before we jump into the price of Bitcoin. However, it is important to acknowledge, we have entered price discovery. We are in a blue sky breakout. You look at this chart, there is quite literally zero resistance because Bitcoin has never been this high. We look at the VRVP, zero volume above us because Bitcoin has never traded this high. And what happens in times like this? Well, the time it took Bitcoin to double after previous all-time highs breaks of the all-time highs, it took 18 days in 2020, 84 days in 2017, 10 days in 2013, and 18 days earlier in 2013 because 2013 was kind of nuts. It had like a double bust, actually. You know what? That's actually interesting. I want to just, I figure I'd just show that because it is a very interesting market that we saw back then. This massive bust up to about $250, and then a bust above $1,000 just a couple of months later. This was the famed double bust. Actually, if we zoom out a little bit, this was the famed double bust right here. It was absolutely mesmerizing, right? That was extremely big. But yes, basically what this means is that after previous all-time high breaks, Bitcoin absolutely tends to accelerate big time, put in massive gainers big time. And did that happen during the last bull market? Yeah, right here is where Bitcoin broke its previous all-time high, right here. And then look what happened right after it did that. Yeah, you could say it actually started exploding pretty big. The structure has all the signs of a full-blown Bitcoin bull market, according to Willy Woo. Face ripping, lots of coins moving on chain, meaning real investors are buying at higher prices, validating it. This is potentially absolutely the biggest bull run, in my opinion, the first bull run for institutions. Right, keep that in mind. This is the fourth retail bull market, but the first real institutional bull market where because of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, it has this level of on-ramping, this level of inflows that we have never seen before. And I just find it so hard to think it's bearish. You have to be delusional, basically. We had on CNBC this morning, Michael Saylor had an interview. Yeah, Bitcoin is superior to the investments such as gold, equity, real estate because it's digital, available, global, ethical, and useful to millions of companies and billions of people. And I think MicroStrategy is going to set precedent. I think a lot of companies are going to look at what MicroStrategy has done and think, wow, I got to get a piece of that. Basically, there will be a lot of copycats. I heard somebody else describe it this way. This is MicroStrategy's chart. Okay, look at this. Looks pretty pumpy. Do you think other companies might want to, adopt the same strategy? It's possible. Absolutely. Also, Donald Trump was on CNBC this morning basically saying Bitcoin is a form of currency that sometimes will let people pay through Bitcoin. I personally think that the main thing Michael Saylor actually said in his interview today was that Bitcoin, again, it's not primarily a currency of exchange. It's basically a store of value. And I think that absolutely Bitcoin has kind of been looking for its narrative, its killer app type, killer use case, and absolutely it's the best store of value. And I think that over time when that was discovered, like, hey, because I remember back in 2017, the whole use case, everyone was trying to say, oh, this has to be a currency, it has to be a form of payment, and that didn't really go over that well, right? Bitcoin's kind of slow. It's much better, and much store of value for Bitcoin, I think, is the ultimate selling point, but also use case that I think a lot of people outside of crypto just cannot fathom why and how important it is. We're seeing Bitcoin futures CME hit a record high, over 10 billion in notional open interest and about 30,000 contracts open. Look at this gigantic spike right here. Absolutely gigantic spike. We're also seeing nonstop furious accumulation from every cohort. We're going much higher according to Bitcoin Munger. Very big, very big. Jelly here says Bitcoin's in price discovery. There will be dips. Your job is to not get shaken out. And I absolutely want to bring this up every time it's applicable, which it is right now. We are going to get pullbacks, okay? And we have for the past year, right? In 2013, you can see they're charted on here. We have gotten pullbacks, but it's your job to understand what is happening and to not get shaken out. Myself and many viewers of the channel, I know for a fact, have been doing very well with this. But the doubters, the people that were unfortunately believing those doom squigglies down to 10K, they were getting gigabanged this entire rally, this entire pump. And my advice and my hope for you is to stop getting gigabanged. Understand that we're in a bull market, and we have been for the past 15 months. Basically, in my opinion, looking back, the minute we bottom and start going up is basically the beginning of the bull market. It's hard to say at the exact time, but I always say, looking in retrospect, I'll say, hey, this was probably the beginning of the bull market. And here we are, already a year into it. Luckily, myself and many of you were buying with everything we had and everything we were making in 2022. And now my portfolio is way higher than it ever was, even when a lot of these altcoins were much higher than they currently are. But we also have to keep in mind, we can't even say when Bitcoin was higher because Bitcoin is the highest it's ever been. So that's also a beautiful thing that we can now say. The first 2 months in the ETFs, honestly, were amazing. 10 Bitcoin ETFs holding about 55 billion in assets, with exactly double that in volume at about 110 billion. What Eric Balkunas, the Bloomberg ETF analyst, says is that if these numbers were at the end of the year, he'd say this was a success. But these numbers were put in just 8 weeks, not 52 weeks, 8 weeks. This is record breaking. This is insane. It is insane for you to be bearish here. And people that have been bearish have been getting banked, creamed, just filled to the brim for the past 8 weeks, but also really going back to the beginning of 2023 because Bitcoin has been floating up for the past well over a year. BlackRock and Fidelity Bitcoin ETFs are ranked 3rd and 4th of inflows among all ETFs in 2024, with more than 16 billion between just those two. And we're watching the 9 Bitcoin ETFs buy about 10,000 per day. 10,000 Bitcoin per day. This chart continues to go parabolic. Okay. And the last thing I want to say about the Bitcoin ETFs now hold more than 55 billion assets, trade 110 in volume. Amazing performance in just 8 weeks. It's literally just what Eric Balkunas says, but this is just illustrated on this chart here. It's the growth of these Bitcoin ETFs is astonishing to watch. Primarily what I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks is these Bitcoin ETFs and how insane these inflows are, and that's what most people are talking about. And the main reason I want to say that is because TA is kind of thrown by the wayside a little bit. We look at these charts, we look at this price action of Bitcoin, and obviously you can still use bearish divergence, bullish divergence, you can use these moving averages to support and everything like that. But as we enter price discovery, as we're getting, thousands of Bitcoin bought every week, tens of thousands of Bitcoin bought, these inflows, just billions of dollars of inflows every week, you have to think that, this chart can do something that it potentially hasn't ever done. Or maybe it hasn't done in like a decade, maybe back to 2013 or something, where we just see ridiculous inflows. This is the first bull market where we have institutional inflows coming in big time, where people can just pile in through via these ETFs, which is a vehicle that has never existed, right? The only real special thing about these ETFs is that it's a new vehicle to acquire Bitcoin. That's basically it. If we would sum it up, it's a new vehicle. And a lot of people were saying, oh, just a new vehicle. It's not really going to, so what? Bitcoin's not going to do much anything different than it's always done. But that literally could not be further from the truth. It turns out, when you have billions of dollars of interest flowing into these ETFs every single day, it turns out Bitcoin starts pumping. It starts pumping pretty fast. It starts going up a lot, right? It turns out that's what happens. You don't have to be incredibly smart to see that. You could be, very not smart. And you could say, hey, if people are buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin per day, the price has a chance to go up. And that's what we're seeing. Okay. Now, also, I do want to highlight Ethereum continuing to break out of this ascending triangle, just absolutely perfect over, a multi-year ascending triangle that is continuing to bust, getting very close to its all-time highs as well. And we look at the entire cryptocurrency market cap, only about less than half a trillion dollars away from its all-time highs. And I think that's truly, well, first of all, with Bitcoin breaking its all-time high, I think we are on an accelerated path to breaking this. But most importantly, I think altcoins will start shining, once we break out of here. I think Bitcoin, honestly, is going to accelerate as well once we break above the previous all-time high for the entire crypto market cap. But I personally think this is very likely to happen in a very short amount of time. I think that now that Bitcoin has absolutely let the juice loose, there's not much stopping this thing. Standing in front of Bitcoin right now, it's like getting in front of a freight train, right? Like if you and your friends were hanging out, standing by the train tracks, and there was 5 of you, and one of your friends said, hey, I think I'm going to stand in front of this train. I think the other 4 friends should be saying, hey, don't do that. Why would you do that? Do you want to get hurt or potentially blown to bits, right? No. I mean, I wouldn't want my friend to get blown to bits, right? I'm not a bad guy. I want my friend to not get blown to bits. I want him to live. So why do people keep getting blown to bits? Why do people keep trying to short this right now? Tell your friends that you don't want them to get blown to bits, okay? It's really that simple. If you have a friend and they say they want to short Bitcoin, it's your job to say, hey, bud, I don't want you to get blown to bits. And get signed up to FEMEX below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins. And without any further ado,